Well, good evening, everyone. I'm Dennis Stone, Director of the Center of Advocacy and Social Justice at the Jacksonville Urban League. And welcome to our series, Racial Healing and Reconciliation Conversations. And tonight we're excited to have with us Jennifer Wesley from the University of North Florida. And I will let Saudia Barge, our coordinator of interns, take it from here to do the introduction. So welcome, Jennifer.
Thank you so much, Dennis, and welcome again, everyone. My name is Saudia Barge, intern coordinator here at the Center of Advocacy and Social Justice at the Jacksonville Urban League. It is my pleasure to introduce our speaker for tonight. Dr. Jennifer Wesley is a professor of criminology and criminal justice at the University of North Florida. Much of her research has focused on marginalized populations of women, including ex-offenders, sex workers, and homeless women. Currently, she is working with incarcerated men in prison dog rehabilitation programs and youth in diversion or detention centers who are participating in humane education. I'll go ahead and drop a couple links in the chat for you guys in case you want to follow up and have more information on Dr. Wesley. But other than that, I'm going to go ahead and pass it over to our speaker and have a great talk.
Thank you so much. And thank you everyone for being here. I see I have a lot of family here, so that's great. I'm going to pull up a PowerPoint. Just make sure this is all working. Okay, so I'm assuming everyone can see that. Please let me know if not, because I cannot tell if not. All right. So first of all, thank you so much for having me here. I'm so happy to be a part of the Racial Healing and Reconciliation series with the Jacksonville Urban League. I've been excited to do this presentation. You've kind of gotten the introduction to me, but I'm a professor at the University of North Florida in criminology and criminal justice. And as was stated, I did traditionally do a lot of work with marginalized populations of women, but I've pivoted in recent years to do more work with incarcerated men, formerly incarcerated and currently incarcerated men who have been in prison dog programs, and also with at-risk youth who are in detention or diversion, who are in humane education programs. So I've been doing some of that with the Jacksonville Humane Society. So my focus for tonight is the role of dogs in bridging racial divides in prison. But before I get into that too much, I'm going to kind of just clarify what prison dog programs are. So you're going to see some photographs tonight, and these are all photographs from a visit that I made to a California prison that is a maximum security. These guys are all part of the Pause for Life prison program. You can see the link there at the bottom, and you can actually look them up. They have bios online. They gave their permission for their images to be used. So all the images you see being used tonight are from the men who did give their permission. But I do use fake names, so I will be using pseudonyms to identify quotes from the guys. But this program, I went to the actual facility and met with them and talked with them, and they have a great story, and so I'll be drawing on some of what they said tonight. The prison dog program idea is not new. It actually started in about the 1800s, which is surprising because that's a long time ago, but it wasn't until the 70s or the 80s that it started to get a little more traction. And there's a history of not just dogs, but different animals with people who are incarcerated in rehabilitative sort of endeavors. So there have been wild Mustang programs out west with some incarcerated folks there. There's programs with cats. I just saw actually a news story about women in the Flagler County Jail who are being paired with underage kittens to help socialize them. So these programs are not new, but they're really ad hoc, meaning there's really no standard, there's no curriculum that is used nationwide. We just know that they exist. And the count right now of prison dog programs specifically is about 200 to 300 across the US. And I'll be referring to them as PDPs. So if you hear me say PDPs, I'm talking about the prison dog programs. What they do. So what they do is they pair incarcerated people with dogs for training and care. Now, we know that the vast majority of these are with men. In part, that's because men are disproportionately represented in the prison system. So like 93% of all incarcerated people are men, but women also are lagging behind in programming. So although I am talking about men today, it is important to note that women also need more of this kind of programming. So typically when the dogs come in, they're coming in from a rescue. So there has to be a lot of infrastructure there. A rescue has to say, I'm committed to this. They have to bring the dogs in. They have to assess the dogs behaviorally to make sure they're okay for this kind of program. And then the rescue or the animal welfare organization comes in every week, if not more, to meet with the men involved and the dogs and to work through the curriculum. The infrastructure is also important in the sense that prisons have to be on board. And that means you got to have like buy-in from the warden. You have to have staff that are already underpaid and overworked, and you're asking them to do more. So the infrastructure can be a challenge, but it doesn't cost a lot of money because the money typically comes from the donations to the rescue. And I can talk more about that if people have questions about it. But what happens in these programs is that dogs are matched with people and they live with them 24/7. So basically these guys, they're often called trainers or handlers, and sometimes they are teamed up. So like more than one man to a dog. The dogs live with these guys 24/7. They live with them in their cells. They live with them in their dormitories. And that means if the dog needs to go out at 4 a.m., that's what the handler is going to do. So the handler is responsible for a curriculum. They're obedience training the dog, presumably to make them more adoptable. Sometimes they're actually training them for service work. So at this program, the Paws for Life program that you see pictured here, they trained a few dogs in over 100 commands to help them be paired with someone who needed them for a service capacity. The programs can last roughly, they tend to be about 12 weeks, but that also can vary. So I'm going to come back to PDPs in a little bit, but first I would like to kind of bring in the other aspect of this presentation today, and that relates to the role of race in prison. And then I'm going to kind of unite that with the PDP and break that down a little bit. So what does all of this have to do with race, right? Well, let's break down the role of race in prison. We know that prison culture often results in de facto racial segregation. In fact, we know that race is today's most dominant influence on prison behavior. Prison culture dictates then when incarcerated people enter prison, they must align themselves with a particular racial category and then demonstrate alliance to that race. Now, I'm really going to oversimplify this, but there is a historical legacy as to why this occurs. So starting in about the 80s or 90s, we had the Get Tough policies. We had Nancy Reagan and the war on drugs. We had 3 strikes and you're out. Those policies led to overcrowding and changing demographics in prison. And so in part, an administrative prison response to that was to start categorizing and organizing people by race. This was kind of a co-constitutive effort in the sense that once this was chosen, race was chosen for arranging and ordering people, the incarcerated population responded by creating rules for themselves. And these emerged in sort of what you could call the racial code or racial politics. So over time, what you have are these racialized processes reinforced by administrative staff and incarcerated people, but they're becoming central to survival for the incarcerated people. So why? It's because if the individual did not align and show solidarity with a particular racial group and support that race, violence was the result. So I'm a qualitative researcher. That means that I collect data that is more based on quality than quantity. So what I mean by that is that I'm going to be talking about my data in terms of in-depth interviews and focus groups. And my data are actually the words of the people that I work with. So I'm going to be sharing some quotes with you to illustrate some of the points that I'm making. I will say, though, I think I mentioned these are all pseudonyms or fake names. I'm not identifying anyone by their actual name. But the argument from all of this is that prison then is a race-making institution. So what is race-making in practice? Well, here I'm going to share a quote with you from one of the interviewees. This is from Felipe, and Felipe said, I remember correctional officers saying to me, and this is a term called racial priming. Racial priming means those entering incarceration must immediately select a race to which they will belong. So he talked about, I remember correctional officers saying to me, you're Hispanic, you're either running with this group or you're running with that group. They were pretty much telling me the two Hispanic groups that exist within the prison system here in the state. So pick one. The incarcerated ones who work as porters, they will come to your cell door and talk to you. In my case, you seem like you're Mexican. Who do you run with? And so now the question is asked, and they're telling me, look, this is the way we all grew up in here. We all participate in the violence that goes on. I remember as a 17-year-old, for the first time in my life, I'm in this situation where there is no home to go to. The only thing after this conversation is over, I'm going back into a cell. So I'm in the situation where I'm feeling very uncomfortable pressure. There's violence right in the edges of all of this. The potential for violence is everywhere. What's interesting with Felipe's quote is that you can see it's a requirement to join a race, but Felipe has to select a group even though he doesn't necessarily identify with the particular group. He's just told to pick one. So the decision to join a particular racial grouping is to some degree not really about identity or race, but more about a mandated mechanism for ordering and organizing people within the prison population. This was really problematized by Aaron. Aaron said, when I first came into prison, they're automatically boxing you in and they're labeling you in this box. What are you? Are you Black? Are you white? Are you Hispanic? What are you? So I tell them my heritage and all this stuff, and they're like, oh, you're an other. And I'm like, man, F you. What the F is an other? I ain't no other. Aaron was actually one of my research participants who only identified as human. He did not share his race. He did not want to share his race. He said, I don't go through the whole racial thing. You know, we got more than enough things that kind of separate us as people. So once someone commits to a racial category, they are expected to support and defend that racial group. And there's consequences for not doing so, like violence. But scholars point out that racial segregation in prison, which is historically initiated by prison staff and then subsequently adopted by incarcerated people, effectively turns incarcerated people against one another. So by perpetuating infighting due to racial groupings, this keeps incarcerated people preoccupied with each other and constantly vigilant about their own safety rather than focusing on the conditions of the prison, the correctional officers, their rights, their quality of life. This is a very effective tactic of control by the prison industrial complex. And some can say it might be a metaphor for what can happen politically. This is a quote from Joe. He said, when you're on a level 4, and level 4 is maximum security, there is exponentially more violence. So you have a lot more time locked inside your cells. Because after a violent incident, custody staff will keep everybody inside for sometimes months or even a year to quell the violence and the tension among the races, because there's a very racially divided system. Diego was one participant who very much became a part of these dynamics. He said, so right off the bat, you get the scoop of what's expected from you and what you're supposed to do. If this, then that, all the prison politics stuff. So I was ready for it. Like, let's go, let's do this. And so it was like that for a while. And at that time, there was a lot of wars amongst the races going on. Yeah, I definitely indulged myself into that. Yeah, I went into the hole many times. I went to the shoe many times. And unlucky for me, it was a revolving door for me. So Diego was one who perpetuated and described perpetuating this racialized violence in prison for a long time. And as intense and dramatic as this is, race also very much organizes the routinized and mundane aspects of prison life. So who uses the showers and the toilets, the telephones, the basketball courts and the yards, and when? And there is a hierarchy there. There is a stratification. Khan said to me, in the state prison, it is very racially segregated and it's gang-based. Being in a level 4 for a long time, I can only socialize with my race. I cannot socialize. And when I mean socialize, I can't really be friends with you. I can't eat with you. I can't exchange stuff with you. All right. So that kind of gives a background of this racial code idea. Now I'm going to talk a little bit more about the PDP. This is Nico. Nico was in one of the Florida-based programs. This is at one of the graduations. So after the dogs go through all of their obedience training, they actually graduate, and potential adopters can attend the graduations, and the guys will sometimes talk about their dogs. They will show maybe what the dog learned or some of their obedience training. So the PDP is merit-based. It's a coveted program. It's something that a person cannot get into if they have disciplinary infractions in a certain period of time or have any issues in terms of the prison environment. There is often a peer-based selection system. So guys who are already in the PDP will select those to be involved when they apply. So there's a little bit of a peer dynamic going on there. There's also an expectation that the participants will work with other races. In fact, several told me that they have been, in their particular program, asked to sign an agreement or a waiver that they will work with other races. I think somebody has their, they don't have their mic silenced. So what do we already know about the PDP? Well, we know from the research that it results in some significant intermediate outcomes in terms of reductions in disciplinary infractions. So the presence of a PDP in a prison for the guys who are in the program, there's a significant reduction in serious and violent infractions, and there's a reduction in grievances filed. We also know that there's a lot of positive effects, probably not surprisingly, the development of communication, responsibility, commitment, respect, psychological and emotional tenets of self-control, self-confidence, patience, and perhaps most relevant to what we're talking about today is enhanced empathy, along with emotional regulation and increased emotional intelligence. So this is what we do know. Where do we go from there? Well, what I'm going to talk about is how the PDP actually creates a new culture within the prison that moves away from this toxic, overly racialized prison culture and into something else. And you might say that it begins with the story of a fork. So this is me at the California prison talking with some of the guys. And one of them told me about the story of a fork. He said when he first started the PDP, he went to the chow hall and he didn't have a fork. And there was another guy in the PDP who happened to be sitting next to him, happened to be of a different race. He just had an extra fork and he gave this to the guy. The man I was talking to said he was absolutely stunned. It was like unprecedented to have someone from a different race in prison share a utensil with him. And he was kind of incredulous that this other guy acted like it was no big deal. He didn't really know what to think because it was counter to every norm and rule in prison culture. So the story of a fork to me was kind of symbolic in the sense of the walls, these racialized walls coming down in the PDP. In fact, the commitment that individuals made to the PDP threatened the racial alliances in prison. They could not coexist. And I'll talk a little bit more about that in a minute. But the kinds of dynamics, the story of the fork is very commonplace once they enter the PDP. We know that even at a very basic level, the human-animal bond or relationship yields positive effects for people. We know this physiologically, psychologically, emotionally. So what the guys told me about was that even when they happened to be walking their dog in the yard, in the prison yard, and other men came up and they saw the dog, even if they weren't in the PDP, it prompted a lot of emotional vulnerability. And this is particularly significant in terms of constructs of masculinity and race, which is something I talk about in some of my other work. So this was a quote from Lucas, and he's describing this very event. He said, "What I really liked about the program was just going out, putting the leash on Lua, and taking her out to the yard and just seeing the reaction. Yeah, grown men, some of them crying, some guys saying, 'Can I pet her?' She would wag her tail and they'd hold her, and then after like a few seconds, they would just start crying. Because in prison, you don't touch dogs. The only dogs you see are the dogs that are searching for drugs." So there's that feeling of holding a dog, and guys would get emotional. And seeing guys who are from different groups in prison, because in this state, they're very racially segregated. They have these gangs and stuff. And seeing them talk to each other and share stories about, when I was a kid, I had a dog, and they're talking and getting along. So again, this is not even related to the work in the program, but just the presence of an animal on the yard and what that actually opened up or unlocked in some of the men that would interact with these animals. But for the men in the PDP, developing relationships with the dogs impacted them deeply. And again, they're living with them 24/7. So the bonds that they create are very strong. And a lot of times they're also relating to the dog on various levels. A lot of these dogs were abused or neglected and had experiences that the guys could relate to. So Diego described, especially when you're in prison where you don't show emotion, you don't show affection. And to be able to do that with an animal, to express love, just care, and to take care of him. My self-worth for a long time was negative, and a lot of people accepted that. A lot of people admired that. And now to switch that all around and to use that for good, and to see that you can do good, you can help, you can reach a goal with the three of us, meaning his teammates that all work together for the dog, that take care of our dog, and to come as a group, as a team, and to figure out what's best for our dog. And this is with different races and different minds, different attitudes, everything. But coming together for one goal, to get our dog where it needs to get, where it needs to be adopted. It's life-changing. So what you kind of hear with Diego is that his love of the dog opened him up, and it also affected his self-worth. Another key part of all of this is identity. And again, that's another piece that I can't really get into too much today, but key shifts in identity are part of what is happening through the PDP. And he's also describing the teamwork that it takes to inspire the motivation to get the dog to the place where it will be adopted. So the dynamics of the PDP made the guys work together. So this is from Raphael, who identified as Hispanic, and he said, and I'm not going to actually say all the curse words, but he said, "I wouldn't want to open up to a black guy, but the program taught me to open up to these guys." And I was like, damn, this is cool, man. This black guy, he's effing cool as F. His name is Lewis. And then I had the white guys. We were cool and everything. And then I started meeting like the Chinese people. And then I started talking to more people. And we had a better connection with working with dogs, and the dogs are opening us up. We're trying to brainstorm together to get what we want, and we're trying to work as a team. So we had to talk, and really, like, it wasn't about politics or nothing like that. It had us do something and bring us together. and be able to help these dogs be rescued from a kill shelter or a dog shelter, you know, from being killed. So somewhat ironically, the dogs become profoundly humanizing. And this is another photo from the California program. Daniel was one participant who said that the program allowed him to see his teammates beyond their skin color. He said, "The dog program helped me view my partners within the program as more human, to try to understand them. Because we all come from different backgrounds. You have whites, Mexicans, African Americans, and so on. You meet people from different backgrounds. It's not, oh, I'm going to go sit with all the Mexicans in the dog program. No, it's okay. I obviously got to get along with this guy. My partner, Joe, is obviously American. I'm Mexican. For me, that was cool that we were able to do that, that it helped me view people beyond their skin color and the prejudices that are enforced upon us within the prison system." I thought it was very interesting that Daniel said enforced upon us within the prison system, because it is an acknowledgement that that did not originate with him. It was the prison industrial complex, the power, individuals imposing that sort of organization and stratification and segregation upon the men who were incarcerated. So what happened is that the empathy that, and many of these things are happening concurrently, by the way, so they're developing empathy for the dogs, but they're also developing empathy for each other. It's like massive shifting going on internally with these guys, and it's not really linear. So this was a quote from Gabriel. He raised his voice at his dog. He was very frustrated, and his teammate, Julian, kind of stepped in and tried to talk him through it. And he said, "Julian and I are classified as different races in prison and just in general. So for him to come to me and call me out on something was very difficult for him, but he did it. That was the moment that really solidified our relationship. For him to come to me and say, 'Hey, I felt this way when you did this, and I would appreciate if you did this. This is my need.' To have him come to me and be so vulnerable and transparent with me, I really saw him differently, but I also saw myself differently. It really exposed the part of me that was like, oh, that's acting like my mom. And I really needed somebody to call me into that space. And he did so kindly and with respect and compassion. I think that's why I was able to hear him. It really deepened our relationship. He helped me see that part of myself." So here what you see is, again, empathy is becoming more pervasive in the relationships between the humans, the relationships with the animals. It's kind of just becoming a very permeating sort of dynamic in the PDP. James was a leader in the PDP and really articulated something interesting. He said, "We incorporate diversification, whether you're Black, white, Asian, all of these different gangsters and cultures and ethnicities within our program to help maybe build a better environment within the culture of the prison that, okay, this works. We can cohabitate with each other. We don't have to have these gangs and these separations and all of these things that go with the toxicity of prison culture." So here he names it. He names the toxicity of prison culture and is identifying this growth that's happening within that environment. It almost becomes a microcosm sort of within the prison system. And it becomes something where the guys in the program engage in a new type of self-governance. So Gerald said, "Every problem we had, we dealt with internally in the dog program. We don't need to go to the program people because we know how to govern ourselves. We're grown men. The Prison Politics Society would never allow you to do that. Never. So all that got chucked aside. The gangs, everything got shut to the side." So this goes back to this theme of the race-based prison culture and the PDP culture cannot coexist. So when the evolution begins with these guys in the PDP, and not everyone succeeds in the PDP, but most do because they want to, the racial segregation that governs the prison society is something that they slough off over time. It's not always easy. It's not always something that happens immediately. Sometimes there's moving forwards and backwards before they succeed, but that is what it takes to succeed in the PDP. So it brings to mind the so what question. I mean, yeah, it's great that they have this in prison, but people want to know about reentry, right? Does this make a difference when people are leaving prison? Because we know, for example, that 95% of state prisoners go back into society. So reentry is important. This is a quote from Joaquin. He said, and I think actually before I say that, I'll mention that there is a real risk without rehabilitation or intervention of any kind that aspects of the prison culture can be exported back into the community. So it's very important to have those sorts of things available for incarcerated people. When we're talking about the PDP, that intensity of that program makes a huge difference in reentry. So Joaquin said, these are the things that tending to and caring for the dogs helped me see and how I should interact with individuals. Backgrounds, different cultures, different diversities, things like that. It helped me be mindful of how to be caring, nurturing, loving. So that's one thing I just want people to understand, that being in a program like that, it'll wake you up in a way. And a couple other people, I wanted to include some quotes from them that were similar. Ty said, yeah, the dog program has helped me become more humane, to be more connected to my human side, like the innate human side to love and care for life, to be appreciative of life. And Gabriel said, but I think that would be the main thing, that the humans matter, whether it's with dogs or whether it's in my world from human to human. Whatever it is, that's really important to see everybody in their fullness, not just as an inmate or one thing, but yeah, to see everybody in their fullness because we're all full beings and we all have our experiences and stories. And even saying that out loud now and then, I'm checking in. So Gabriel and these guys are all now out in society. They are formerly incarcerated. So he's saying that he still verbally checks in with himself or mentally checks in with himself to make sure he's still doing this, that he's still carrying forward these lessons from the PDP. So we know in terms of reentry, there are certain things that are really important. Somebody's ability to get employment, the ability to have pro-social, social supports, all those things make a big difference in somebody re-entering society after being incarcerated. And we're talking about these guys being incarcerated for 20 to 30 years. Most of them had life sentences that changed for various reasons. So I spoke with both currently incarcerated and formerly incarcerated men, and many of the formerly incarcerated men talked about, first of all, in terms of employment, several of them, and actually I follow several of them on Instagram, they have dog boarding and training businesses. They have dog-related other training facilities, and they don't all go down that path. Some of them also just they own, like one of them works for an air conditioning company. They found ways to channel what they learned in the PDP to getting along with and interacting with other people. And that was something that was able to help them sustain employment. Social support is also really important. It's critical to navigating reentry. And several of them talked about how they can now establish diverse but supportive friendships. And Carlos and Keanu are a great example. They were two guys that were in the PDP together. Carlos identifies as Mexican American and Keanu as Filipino. They served 25 and 27 years respectively. They began the PDP at the same time, and they were teamed up for 2 years before they had separate release dates. They reconnected after their release. They're really close. They do a lot of social things together. They go to baseball games together. So that friendship is a very supportive one for one another. And Khan also talked about this. He developed some pro-social friendships after learning to build them during the PDP. He said, "It's a funny thing. I learned that when I really stepped out of my own self, I'm a very likable person. I have a lot of non-Asian friends that really like me and they actually look up to me. So I started to have a lot of friends. I mean, most of the guys from the dog program when I was in there, they are very good, supportive for me." So just to kind of reflect on these various mechanisms through which the PDP destabilized some of these racialized divisions in prison. As I discussed, even before the program began, there were ways that men who were incarcerated interacted with the dogs, and it allowed them to just open up a little bit in terms of their vulnerability and their emotional openness. Once you kind of crack that door, it leaves space for the ways that that can continue. The participants also had to understand the dog while also working with teammates. So again, these things are happening at the same time. They're trying to manage all of this change, and they are themselves evolving at a rapid rate. There's a deepening investment in an attachment to the dog, but this seeps into their human interactions. So there's increased understanding and compassion instead of judgment. Self-reflection, a lot of self-reflection instead of self-absorption. Common goals and communication instead of self-preservation and isolation. Self-preservation and isolation are often what characterize people's prison experiences, and this changed that. It is not news that empathy is a key tenet of racial tolerance, so it is amazing that that is not in a good way, that we don't tap into that more. What the PDP does is taps into that explicitly. The empathetic responses in understanding their dogs, getting to know each other in the program on a deeper level, and begin to utilize the tool of putting themselves in the position of another. This allowed them to see each other fully and to value themselves, because many of them had a very low sense of their own self-worth. So again, the dogs were fundamentally humanizing, and you cannot unring that bell. So once the guys kind of got to that point in the PDP, they weren't going back. They were only going forward. And that shift is so important. That's how it becomes a healthy person and a person who succeeds upon reentry and knows how to interact and build those bridges between people. This is Jason and Sugar Mama. Those are their real names because Jason does do some public speaking. But this was at a program here in Florida. Jason was paired with Sugar Mama, who was part of a dogfighting ring, rescued from that. And he became extremely attached to her. This is unusual, but his family was able to adopt Sugar Mama before he was released. And then he was able to adopt her once he was released, and he credits her basically with saving his life. So now I will open it up for questions, and I will also share with you these are some publications about this topic and gets into more depth on some of the other ways that the PDP affects individuals. And I will stop my sharing here, and I'm ready to take questions if there are any.
I'm wondering, given the amazing results, if you reverse engineer it, you have to say, of course. But has it moved you to, other than writing the book, to do more in terms of spreading this gospel?
Yes, I mean, I think part of what is important is not just intervention, but prevention, which is why I've been doing a lot of work with detained and diverted youth. So youth who are in lockup detention facilities. I've just finished conducting focus groups with them. They're in a humane education program. They're not living with the dogs 24/7, but they have frequent interaction with the dogs. So part of that to me is like, how do we deal with this at younger ages before, like that one quote from Felipe, he went in at 17. You know, a person who goes in at 17 and then they're 40 or 50, when I'm talking to them, they're a completely different person. So how do we do something to intervene at younger ages, and use kind of these lessons of empathy and pro-social behavior to intervene earlier? And yes, I am actively working on that. And I also actively work on continuing to address these programs are so flighty in the sense of, if one piece of the infrastructure breaks down, the program falls apart. So part of it is just that getting the funding to have those things stay in place is another big issue. So yes, I definitely do try to continue to work on that at a number of levels.
Great. I mean, it's really inspiring.
Oh, good.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, I say that even for the person who is maybe the most cold-hearted person who says, well, why should people in prison get dogs, and they don't really understand. I say, well, it's going to affect your wallet, because you're going to have more people recidivating, reoffending if they don't have programs like this. That costs the taxpayers more. So these programs are actually beneficial to the taxpayer, and they don't cost the taxpayer a lot, because, as I said, a lot comes in from donations for the rescue. So it's actually a very inexpensive kind of program to run. And if more people were kind of aware of it, I think maybe there would be more support, even for that reason.
Mhm. Yeah, it's politicians. I sat in on a city council finance committee meeting today, and politicians have a different view about who pays for what, regardless of the value to the citizens. But anyway,
It's true. And sometimes people don't want to, the research is science, right? That is the way that this gets borne out. And I feel like you really can't argue with that. But at the same time, sometimes people don't believe that that is the best approach, is to believe the research. There's a limited pot of money and everybody has an agenda. So
yeah, it's I realize that the our politicians do feel they have a job to do, and sometimes it's hard for us to see their perspective when we view such great programs like this, and uh, where did you what what made you want to do this? How did all the pieces come together?
that's a good question. And I see there's also a question in the chat as well. So I think I got interested in doing this in part. I volunteer with animals. I volunteer at the Humane Society. I had been doing a lot of work with humans that was very, very draining. And so I kind of thought, oh, well, maybe I'll see, is there a way I could kind of incorporate animals with this? And then I got in touch with some various entities, rescues. And then, like, for example, at the University of Denver, there's a Institute for Human Animal Connection. And I started doing some research with them. And it kind of led to this focus for me, but it's evolved over years. I mean, I took students I did a class with students, and I took them into the prisons, and they met with the guys in the PDP. So, but that was a lot. So there's different ways it kind of webs out. And then I started working on the juvenile piece, and it's just kind of snowballed from there.
Yeah. So I guess the question is, how might more wardens be convinced of the value of PDPs and other restorative justice programs?
It's a great question without an easy answer. And when I started working with the Florida programs where I went in and did focus groups with the guys in prison, I had to meet personally with the warden and convince him, to let me do this. And as far as, but at the same time, that warden had been allowing what was called the TAILS program at the time. But what they did is they had a dedicated correctional staff member who was responsible for what was going on with the PDP. So I think part of it is like getting buy-in, whether it's monetarily or, hey, this looks good for the prison, kind of playing to the sound bites that are going to make it look good for what the prison is doing, and even showing lower rates in recidivism. So there has been a study done in Florida of prison dog programs that showed that there was a 15% reduction in recidivism for those who participated in a PDP. And again, for those who might not be criminologists, recidivism is reoffending. So there was a decrease in reoffending for those who were in a PDP and then were re-entered society. So I think those kind of numbers and that kind of information is what can convince wardens, in part because it makes them and their facility look better. And innovative or restorative justice programs are just not popular with everyone. Unfortunately, people put a political skew on it, and it's not. It's a nonpartisan issue to do things to increase pro-social behaviors in society. So sometimes it's just boots on the ground making the arguments and making that infrastructure happen. It's not very a satisfying answer, I don't think, but.
Well, they definitely have their own fiefdom there, so but Matt says he really appreciates your answer.
Thanks, Matt.
Yeah, I have a question. Good job, Dr. Wesley.
Thank you, Dr. Gardner, now a PhD as well.
Thank you. I'm curious. So when some of these men, I'm just curious. Like, so the insights, right? Or if you have insights about this openness, the empathy, and even like the racial or sort of the participants seeing each other, like the fullness of each other beyond race. Does that go beyond the program? Like, for example, when they enter back, when they're out of the program and they're like in like general population, do you know if that like persists?
Yes, it does persist. A lot of them did describe that. And so like the Carlos and Keanu, those two remain friends now a year after release. A lot of them talked about, I didn't put this quote in the presentation, but one of the men had said to me, like, I have people coming to he's the one who has the boarding facility, the training and boarding facility. And he said, I have people, like all sorts of different people coming to me asking me to train their dogs. And he said, if I reacted like I reacted in prison, I would lose business and friends and networks and contacts. So he said, I learned that I can't act that way. I'm not somebody's going to offend me and I'm going to get mad. No, that's not how I can act in order to have a successful job and good relationships with people. So they talked directly to that about how the relationships they established in the PDP taught them, like, hey, everybody's like got their own stuff. Everybody's a full person, and something could be driving however another person reacts that has nothing to do with me. And they kind of just, have used those tools and that empathy and brought that forward into their relationships now and their jobs. Good question. Thank you. And I don't want to sound like it's all perfect and great. Like I said, there are people who don't succeed in the prison dog program, and there are people who do recidivate. So it's not a perfect science, but what we're looking at is this does make a difference. and we're looking at the majority of people and what they tell us about after being incarcerated for 30 years and being out for 1 or 2 years and the kind of experience that they're having. I saw a question.
As I see what from Pam.
Yes.
Little Wesley here.
Yeah, she might be a relation.
What do you think is the next question that needs to be asked or researched about programs like this?
Thank you, Dr. Wesley. Also a doctor in the family. I think that the question to be researched to me, I kind of go back to the prevention rather than intervention again. So in what ways can we engage youth at risk in programs like this that can reroute their direction? So I would like to see, there's not a lot of research done about these programs in general, but I just completed a manuscript that's under review right now about motivation and engagement in the youth diversion program in humane education at the Humane Society. And we looked at what engaged the youth the most, you know, in terms of that humane education program. And once we kind of see what's most engaging for youth that are at risk, we can deploy that more in programming. So I think that's really important to investigate right now is what makes a difference. Because when we're talking about the youth programs, again, they don't live with the dogs 24/7. So I want to focus some attention, some research attention on that. That's kind of the research question that I think is really pressing right now.
Other questions for Dr. Wesley?
Or, you know, comments. I mean, I would, comments are welcome as well.
Well, it was a fascinating presentation, and we've learned a lot, and I think it brought a lot to our monthly conversation too about the role of race in prison. And of course, we're very well aware of the racial impact on those incarcerated.
Yes.
Uh,
And I love that you're doing, you know, the work that you're doing. And if you ever would like me to support and additionally, I'm happy to do that.
That sounds great. Thank you very much.
And thank you everyone for attending.
Yes, on behalf of the Jacksonville Urban League and the Center for Advocacy and Social Justice, I want to thank you, Professor, for being with us this evening and all of the attendees. And as I said earlier, we'll have this recording on YouTube for others to see, and we usually pick up quite a few views, particularly a topic like this. So thank you very much. And above all, thank you, Saudia, for your introduction and for being with us this evening and all the work you do to help with our interns. So everyone have a great evening and a great weekend.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good night, everyone.